Well, the net neutrality debate is back in the spotlight as the FCC is set to unveil a proposal later this week that could change the way it oversees high-speed internet service. We have two guests tonight with opposing views on this very important topic. Todd O'Boyle is program director with the public interest lobbying group Common Cause, and he favors regulating the internet as a utility, while Scott Cleland, a broadband consultant and president of his own firm, Precursor, disagrees, saying that this move could, in fact, break the internet. We should point out before we begin that CNBC, which produces Nightly Business Report, is owned by the broadband provider Comcast. Let me begin with you, Mr. O'Boyle. This is a very nuanced topic. It can be eye-glazingly complex, frankly. But at its heart, it goes to the question of whether broadband providers, as I understand it, ought to be able to charge different prices for different speeds. Why shouldn't a broadband provider be able to charge a, quote, data hog for using so much more of its bandwidth?
Broadband providers should be in the business of delivering to consumers the content that they're already paying for. They're paying subscribers, and they should be able to get to the websites and services of their choice. That's the core of common carrier, or so-called net neutrality protections, and it's actually core to the way the internet functions. This has nothing to do with so-called utility style regulation and everything to do with consumer protection.
And Scott, I know you disagree with some of that. Take the other side.
Well, net neutrality is something that people enjoy today. Businesses do not have an interest in blocking or throttling. What the problem is applying utility regulation to something that's not a utility. This is, a utility is like electricity, gas, or water. And broadband can be delivered electrically over wire, optically over fiber optic, or wirelessly in many different ways. And there are many companies. That's not a utility monopoly that needs utility regulation.
Scott, I'm not sure that Mr. O'Boyle would say this, but I have seen people who are on the other side of the debate from you say that the ability of the large carriers to block small and entrepreneurial carriers or to disadvantage them with speeds is the reason we need this sort of equal treatment for all. Why isn't that a strong argument here, or is it?
Well, the reason it isn't is because we have over 1,000 broadband providers. Over the last 10 years, they've done quintillions of transactions and transmissions. There have been less than a handful of identified problems. So this is like trying to take a beach and say, we found 2 grams of sand that are a problem, therefore we need to really hyper-regulate the whole beach. This is overkill. The industry is supporting net neutrality and is willing to abide by the FCC's rules. Utility regulation would apply the most obsolete regulations to the most modern part of the economy. It would slow the internet down to government speed. It's unnecessary and unwarranted.
Would it do that, Todd? Would it basically slow everything down to government speed, which in some cases is extremely slow? Is it overkill?
Absolutely not. In fact, strong net neutrality protections encourage innovation. They encourage investment. They ensure innovators with the sorts of regulatory certainty they need to make multi-million-dollar or even billion-dollar bets. And that's why we know that so many small businesses, startups, .coms are saying very eager for full Title II reclassification, so-called real net neutrality, strong net neutrality. And I'd have to take exception to one thing that Mr. Cleland said. The fact is we do know that internet service providers are interfering with their own consumers' access online. In fact, we saw that Comcast started interfering with Netflix the month after the old net neutrality rules were thrown out as being improperly written.
Mr. O'Boyle, I want to get Mr. Cleland's response to that, but I want to get your reaction to what I thought I heard Scott say, and that was that the broadband providers, quote, favor net neutrality, don't want to throttle, don't want to do anything like that. Is that how you see it? Do you agree with that? How do you react to that?
Devil's in the details, of course. So they say that they support net neutrality in the same way that we all support motherhood and apple pie. But what really matters is that the rules be written in a way that's enforceable. And when the court recently or last year threw out the old rules, they did so because they were written in a way that was effectively unenforceable. The reason that these providers say they like the idea, they just don't like the implementation, is because they know if it's written the wrong way, then it'll get thrown out.
Scott, a very quick final thought.
Look, Title II is the most onerous regulation that is available to regulate any industry. This is the most modern industry. It is. Everybody's gone from smartphones. No one had one 7 years ago. Over 200 million people have them today. This is an industry that's not broken, and the FCC should be careful not to break it with the most obsolete regulation available.
Gentlemen, a spirited debate. Thank you very much. Todd O'Boyle, Common Cause. Scott Cleland with Precursor.